after Planet X. This presentation, video 85, is being presented by the ancient spirit tralaka, flowing here with spirit to answer more situations of questions. Now, the recovery time after the Niburu system and its 7 planets, 10 moons, and that red dead star with the incredible amount of magnetics to her that pulls that asteroid belt field behind her, things are already beginning to happen and have been on this planet. Though here in 2013, the North Pole movement toward Russia is greatly picking up speed. This will continue, though I warn you, the ancient spirit, he warns you that the speeding up of the North Pole's movement could, with a 73% variable and holding steady because of this moving much faster down North Pole, could cause very abrupt, fast, multiple layered plate movements at the same time. As it is seen at the present time from the location the spirit tralaka can see from, there would be already here a large chance because of that moving fast North Pole for this to cause Japan to be lowered into the ocean by nearly 19 meters. This would cause such a motion in the waters that would send tsunamis, great tsunamis, towards China and Korea with in between 18 to 30 meter high waves. Waves of lesser strengths would go to the varied islands to the east of Japan, though the angle of the plate movements as being shown, the biggest waves that would be going, they would be going west from Japan and southwest. I must urge the listeners to understand that actions like this are a direct interactions between the Earth and the Niburu system's red dead star. This is putting the Earth in a squeeze like a Nerf ball. The Niburu system is still on its way in from the present locations far beyond the sun, yet its magnetic powers and struggles and gravities each day are putting more of a squeeze on that ball, which is just causing the multi-dimensional Earth to compress and compress more and more. These actions squeeze so much energy inwards. The pressures between the plates around the world have been getting so superloaded with stress because the Earth, as most other planets known, is a multi-dimensional planet. While plates are being super compressed in other parts of the world, it can cause plates in a whole other part of the world to be affected, though they seem like they wouldn't be possible for one to cause the other because the Earth is a multi-dimensional planet. Things like this are very possible, and they do happen. The probability of that secondary effect from that pole shifting so fast up in the North Pole from hitting the United States, the probability, this is important, the probability of that secondary effect hitting the United States is presently hovering at 82%. Should that North Pole keep picking up speeds even faster and the magnetics vibrating such super vibratories against the super compressed plates that would just let loose, and then that would cause Japan to drop by nearly 19 meters. This would have a delayed effect, meaning this would be a little bit while down the road that the United States would most likely, as I've explained, be affected. That this would crack the back of the New Madrid quake fault lines, the plates. Should the probability, as it has been seen, as it could happen, it later would not take many smaller quakes to drop large parts of the New Madrid parts of the country. Important to understand causes and effects in living on a multidimensional planet with many different layers of plates. Though the real damage will not be done until the red dead star is passing past Venus, as the red dead star in the Niburu system begins to move outwards from the Earth's systems of planets. So this passing of what people still insist on calling Planet X will not be as bad as the old country's stories passed on through the ages, although, please understand, it will still come close enough to crack the back of the United States into three main pieces. The Mississippi is not seen to be as being split as far as others have viewed, although it will still be between a 7 and a 13-mile opening on the variables of the lower 3/5 of the river. A 3-kilometer lake would later be formed in the more southwestern part of Nebraska. The size of the lake would be very, very vertical and take some time to make roads and paths to entry of this new, though ancient, lake for what will be found there as it begins to be explored. Some things will greatly rattle deeply the core of the religious believers here in the United States, causing many to question things of what the churches and many of the beliefs cannot answer, yet it will be right before them, as it is still seen right now at the present time. One of the cracks on the back of the United States starts at 3.5 miles from the Mississippi going eastwards across the top of Kentucky to near the shore of the Atlantic, but not quite, though not seen as being more than a few 100 feet across at its widest, although it needs to be understood that this will divide the mighty Midwest into an upper and lower in a very literal sense. The later effects of the Niburu system and its red dead star leaves our Earth systems of planets will be the rippling of the decompressioning of the planet Earth. And these things like this will crack the Hoover Dam and dropping some area local mountains low enough that will surrender to the Pacific Ocean coming in as large waves comes crashing into the desert flats of Vegas and surrounding flats, in which the waters are seen that they would be staying about 3 meters in depth. During this time, though, is also a large, great whining, cracking sound that will occur near the Nevada-Arizona line that will pour tens of millions of gallons of very, very fast moving waters down into the tunnels, some of which were built by the hidden government since the 40s. And one of them, at least one of them, were built by the ancient Greys. This will drown many elite and yet dirty criminal creeps that have stolen billions, even trillions, from the hard-working taxpayers of America since the late 1940s. For the waters flowing into this large open crack in the ground will be like getting flushed by the Pacific Ocean, being pushed and flushed by the Pacific Ocean, like putting a half a dozen large drinking straws, like some restaurants have, not those little cheap little ones, but the healthy ones, and putting them together and connecting them to the end of a fire hydrant, with the right adapter, of course, and turning the hydrant on full for those below in those locations. And connected to them also tunnels, there will be no time for reaction. So I ask, how long can a human hold their breath when in deep tunnel cities that are being filled with ocean water at thousands of pounds of pressure. Well, the ancient tralaka, I know how short of a time an old gray can swim in the water. They're not very good with water. They don't have as developed lungs as humans do. They're smarter, but they can't pedal water very long. Back to it. As the continent of North America tilts clockwise from the late poles of that red dead star, which others have called the mean sister of our sun that the earth receives the sunshine from. This will crack the connection on most of Mexico, not an even line, because some of America will be receiving part of Mexico. The others will be forming into little islands. This will make some of those central countries also into islands of very strange formations, yet not directly connected. This will require long periods of building bridges, as South America also will rip apart from this Central America and lay clockwise on its new bed for the next couple times of the passing of Niburu. The leaders in the aftermath of recovery will need to decide if bridges that will be needed to be that long will be able to hold up with the new ocean currents created because of the large changing of direction of the continents to connect to each landmass. Now, this will be years in recovery and needs to be understood, and the understanding that the new weather patterns across the world, they will be very time measured time to be able to put together actual repetitions of weather, because it's going to be all new weather patterns as the red dead star and its Niburu orbits of 7 planets, 10 moons, and asteroid tail leave our area. The earth will be going in through many changes, and she needs to be understood. Our Gaia, our earth, is getting put through all these chances and changes and situations for the movements of the continents into different positions will alter for some time the Earth's water currents as well as the weather systems that feed off of them. This is nothing new. It has happened before on this planet, as it has on other planets. Not all planets, just a few here and there, but it has happened before. It's nothing new. It's nothing new. The loss of technology, though, as I have been shown, will not be as massive as it was thought it would be, and as it was propaganda said it would be. Those are deceptions. Don't believe them. For some of the satellites will still be in working order and sending and receiving information, as well as a reasonable degree of higher capacity terminal computers, which will still be able to transport information from one section of the country to the other. Though somewhat limited, there will be some working. And cable companies that have put in billions for fiber optics. This will be for some time the best way of putting through communications that it would be for satellites, because you can lay cable faster than you can build a satellite. As it would also be cheaper, which would link to other systems across the country, as I've mentioned. The bigger issue in the United States at these coming times, tick-tock, 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 will be getting food to the survivors for the first 3 to 6 months, not days. Some areas are really going to get thrashed around. As the waters begin, though, to settle down, boats and ships will be able to navigate on the new waters yet again. Though for some time, the old school captains that still remember operating ships before satellite navigation will be worth great amounts of money for their knowledge and their abilities, as well as the old school pilots who can use a plane without satellite navigation, as they did like in the early 1900s, will be worth lots of money to transport emergency supplies, especially of medicines and things as blankets, water, and MRIs to supply those humans in dire need in the worst areas of our country and also other countries around the world. As it has been seen lately, the first 6.2 miles within the shorelines of both sides of the United States will face both waves of the oceans and that of the magnetic waves from the leaving red dead star and Earth. A strange combination as it is being seen and, and explained. The biggest devastation will be in those 6.2 miles up and down both shorelines of the United States. The very heaviest will be in the 1.8 miles, the pushing and pulling of the waves by both magnetic storms between the Earth and the red dead star, and the movements of the land masses will clean the shores those first few miles like a fine-tooth comb. Many buildings, materials, cars, ships, peoples, pets, fencing, drywalls, everything wiped away to the great depths of the ocean. The next 3.1 miles of buildings will greatly face crumbling from around the bases of the building from the water moving around. As later, 28% of those buildings will fall in upon themselves. 39% of the others will be unusable because of the devastation of the waves. This will mark a time, truly to mark a time, to build whole new buildings and cities. But please listen closely here, as from the ancient spirit. Though to build these new buildings and cities based on very high proficiency, not symbolism of cults or beliefs of any form. This next part, please listen closely. The cities near the shores that have been ripped apart need to be that are closest between 2.1 miles to the ocean, and that they need to be taken down, no exception, and no new cities within that first 2.1 miles of oceanfront can ever be built on again, all the way up and down both coasts of the United States. The empty space between the new city line and the oceans on either coast needs to be very heavily planted of forest and parks with many trees, plants designed to handle the salty ocean water and weather. Of these newly planted forests and groves of trees, it will need to be recognized as being a memorial also for the millions of Americans who were wrongly drowned, and the memory of the nature's power. Those lands must never be built on again in honor of both. That is to be a stiff lesson here to the citizens of this country and of the world, for those who feel that they are mightier than the movements of the living universe, and they built their straw buildings on the shorelines, even though they knew that the planet X would return, and yet it is them who are on the bottom of the ocean drowned, and not so far of a time in the future. Will everybody have to face 300-mile-an-hour winds as some claim will happen? The answer is no, though many of them will face nearly 2 weeks of 120 to 162 miles an hour of straight blowing winds. Though not as devastating as 300-mile-an-hour straight wind, though this will make passage over bridges as well as long sections of flatlands pretty well impossible. Your vehicles will get strewn around like your Matchbox toys. Remember when you were a kid and your mean uncle came over with his super leaf blower and blew your entire collection tumbling across the yard and into the street? Yeah, it'll be like that. During these times, the New World Order will be in pieces. This here must never ever be allowed to be put back together or of their own power being restored, as well as never allowed for its cults and teachings to be taught upon this planet again, any place. Or planet Earth humans will get sucked into slavery under the reign of yet another New World Order plan. Again, this is so important to understand. During this time of the high winds, the grid around the planet Earth will not be working correctly because of the magnetics from the red dead star. Even though with it not working, there will still be very stressing times for the spirit humans. And those spirit humans must become stronger by taking some time and reestablishing the connection with their inner spirit to be able to use their combined power to aid to manifest a future of Earth that is without the grid around the planet and without the New World Order ever being on the planet. Although this is going to cause a war to happen by those certain species of off-world reptilians I've talked about in much earlier videos who built and control that grid around the planet so long. This will not be a long war, though. Their timing of it and the residual effects of the then already past red dead star and the niburu system, planets and moons and asteroids, will work for the Earth humans' benefit. Although a pact, or rather not a contract of sorts, will need to be made between the new leaders of the countries of Earth and a certain reptilian green species that live within certain pockets of the Earth they will come out to the Earth humans' aid as the off-world angry reptilians that control the grid come to Earth to wage war. And this is going to be a high-tech war. The inner Earth green reptilians already have the technology to defeat the ones who control that grid around Earth in that war. Those from the inner Earth then will also aid in designs for large sections of lands that was massively flooded from the passing of the niburu system in the flats of the United States to be reclaimed, to drain the water to regain for planting crops. Some of this will be given to those of the inner Earth for growing livestock and vegetables and plums. They like plums. The designs will keep the waters held back in future floodings also, while also creating very unique aqueducts and state-of-the-art holding lakes designed in the rocky areas that are not able to grow anything, so no land is wasted. Though very interesting, the new saying that will be around the Earth will finally come around and is very long overdue. That it is not my planet, it is ours. It is ours. The planet is ours, with a plural meaning. This will show for others that the Earth spirit humans are beginning to understand maturity as a species, the plural sense of it is our planet, the understanding that it is of the Earth humans and also of the inner green reptilians who were here first. The green reptilians of the inner Earth pocket will also have available to share a solution for the massive methane bubble still under the Gulf of Mexico that will be beneficial for humans and inner Earth reptilians both. New maps they will also bring forth that from that species of inner Earth that show very large pockets of methanes that the humans knew nothing about, that are natural byproducts of the earth as it works, that will be able to be tapped into without causing any stress to Mother Earth like drilling for oil does. Let's just say they will greatly urge at that time to please come to a complete stop of gas and diesel driven vehicle engines in exchange for helping with the certain quirks they're working to get to fix that the human inventors to help create methane powered engines to power primarily vehicles for semi trucks and the heavy transit of foods and goods that are much, much, much more efficient than diesel and stronger. While designs for electric vehicles are also helped by them. This is what those green reptilian species had to say to me in a meditation sleep as they came within that meditation sleep to offer. It is both of our benefits for surface earth dwellers to become educated without your old deceptors of control, to be able to understand how important it is to take care of earth while you live on it, for it affects truly the inner earth pockets of beings as well. As you damage the outer surface of the planet, it has repercussions for the beings who live within. The planet Earth has such massive amounts of magnetics that could be used that will not affect her health, that will also not create hardship between the two species, to use for both powering vehicles and powering homes, as the drilling for oil greatly needs to lessen. The pains of your Mother Earth and our Mother Earth will so ease so our Mother Earth can recover from the visit of the sun's angry sister, the red dead star, and from the hundreds of thousands of your oil rigs that you drilled into the Earth's spine and left vast wastelands from mining without showing intelligence or of knowing that Mother Earth is alive. Now, back to the explanation. The loss of the coming and going of the Niburu system and its red dead star and 7 planets, 10 moons, and long asteroid field will be 3.379423 billion humans lost during the harshest times that are accountable. Though many unlisted villages in other parts of the world near the coastal lines and crustal upheavals and pull downs that do not have accurate census, there will be no way to add them correctly into the equation. The losses of the Niburu system of planets, let me say this again. The losses that the Niburu system species on the Niburu system of planets will also be of count, important to understand here, because of their very careful building codes of long time they've had these, not to build near the waters or quake lines. The Niburans, and there's 4 different species, the Niburans will lose less than 183,000 deaths. Much of this will be as the red dead star is pulling away from the Earth, and the red dead star's magnetic pulling back and forth will cause, as it finally leaves from the Earth and that connection is lost, it will cause that has not been seen since ancient times, on the second planet in the niburu system, a quake line that will rupture so vastly and fast, ripping and tearing of lands on that ancient fault line, throwing large hot rocks and hot boulders into the air from such an incredible release of power between those two huge land masses pounding against each other and thrusting upwards in such an angle upwards that would come down to area cities approximately 15 kilometers away. Will there be other damages on Earth and the moon during the visit of the red dead star not mentioned here? And that is yes, though at the time. This is what I have received, and I have made sure to explain to the other spirit humans upon this earth. In closing here, remember to embrace the future possibilities of your awakened inner spirit in your active life, working together to be able to also leave the control freaks of the ancient cults, both harmful teachings and applications, behind in the low energy history. So the civilization of Earth spirit humans awakening fully occurs in its rightful, long overdue manner. This here is the ancient spirit tralaka, my friends. Good night.